Welcome back, listeners, to By the Pages. We're diving into another exciting deep dive today. This week, we're tackling the book of Joshua. It's filled with action, battles, conquests.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a crucial turning point for the Israelites. They're transitioning from wandering in the desert for all those years to finally settling in the promised land.
Right, a huge shift. So for this deep dive, we're using a few sources. We have that great video summary from the Bible Project. We've got a detailed text overview. And of course, we'll be going right to the source using the King James Version of the book of Joshua.
Those will give us a good, well-rounded perspective.
Definitely. Now, as we go through this, I think some big questions will come up, things we probably all wonder about sometimes, like what were the major events and themes that shaped this whole era, and what can we learn from Joshua's leadership, and from what the Israelites went through?
Right. Yeah, great questions.
So to kick things off, the book of Joshua opens with, the death of Moses, and then God appoints Joshua as the new leader.
It's a big moment, like a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
And in that moment, God actually reaffirms his covenant with Abraham, that promise to give the land to his descendants.
It's like God saying, hey, I'm still keeping my promises,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But it also shows the huge responsibility that comes with inheriting that promise. It's not a free pass.
Right, exactly. And the Israelites are reminded again and again that to succeed in the Promised Land, they have to follow God's commands. This whole idea of covenant obedience is kind of a thread that runs through the whole book.
Yeah, it's not just about following rules for the sake of it. It's about, like a deep relationship, a two-way agreement between God and his people. If they want to thrive in this new land, they need to be faithful.
I see. So one of the most dramatic things that happens early on is the crossing of the Jordan River. It's pretty amazing. The river just stops flowing so they can walk across on dry ground.
Yeah, so much symbolism in that, right? It's like a brand new start for them after 40 years of wandering in the desert. It's a powerful image of how God can step in and, just overcome any obstacle.
Makes you think. And then they're told to take 12 stones from the riverbed to make a memorial, like a physical reminder for the generations to come about God's faithfulness and power.
Exactly. It's like a testament to their faith, a way to make sure that memory lives on.
Wow. Okay, so then we get to the Battle of Jericho. It's one of those stories that just captures your imagination. The Israelites get this unusual battle plan.
Oh, for sure. It's pretty unique.
They have to march around the city for 7 days blowing trumpets, and then on the 7th day, after they give this big shout, the walls of Jericho just crumble.
It's not your typical military strategy. It's about faith, about trusting and following God's instructions, even when they don't make sense on the surface.
I can imagine. To be one of those soldiers, marching day after day around what seems like an unbreakable city, it must have taken a lot of faith.
Definitely. And, within that story, you also have the story of Rehab. She's a woman living in Jericho, and she decides to help the Israelite spies.
Oh, right.
She recognizes the power of the God of Israel. She aligns herself with them, even though it means betraying her own people.
Yeah, a reminder that God's grace can reach anyone.
Absolutely. But then things take a darker turn. We get a story of, disobedience and its consequences.
Oh, right, with HN. He takes some of the forbidden loot from Jericho.
Right. And that act of disobedience, it leads to a terrible defeat for the Israelites in the Battle of Ai.
It shows how one person's actions can affect the whole community. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Underscores the need for accountability, both individual and collective.
I see. So after that defeat, Joshua comes up with a new strategy for the second Battle of Ai. He uses a clever ambush tactic.
Right. Very strategic. And it shows, God can work in different ways to achieve his purposes. It's not always a straight path.
Right, yeah. So the victory at Ai opens the way for the next big phase, the division of the land among the 12 tribes.
It's like the beginning of settling down, They're putting down roots, claiming their inheritance.
Right, finally establishing themselves in the Promised Land.
Exactly. It's a crucial step in becoming a nation, Building that sense of belonging.
But even as they're settling, there are still challenges, things that test their wisdom and their commitment to their values. Like, for example, the Gibeonite deception.
Oh, right. The Gibeonites, they're afraid of the Israelites' strength, so they cook up this plan to trick them into a peace treaty.
And even though they were tricked, the Israelites still decide to honor the treaty, to keep their word.
It's interesting, right? It brings up questions about wisdom and mercy.
They could have easily broken their promise and just, retaliated.
Yeah, but instead they chose to act with integrity, even when it wasn't easy.
It's a powerful example of standing by your principles.
Definitely.
And then there's that incredible story of the battle where it seems like the sun stands still.
Oh, yeah. One of the most debated and awe-inspiring moments in the book. In the middle of this battle, Joshua asks God to stop the sun and moon in the sky so the Israelites can finish winning.
And according to the text, God does it.
Right. It seems to defy everything we know about the laws of nature. It speaks to their faith, their belief that God could do anything.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And, there have been a lot of different interpretations of that event throughout history.
Makes sense. Such a dramatic moment.
Some people take it literally, God literally stopping the Earth's rotation.
Wow.
Others see it more symbolically as a poetic way to express how important and huge this particular battle was.
Interesting.
Yeah. Regardless of how you interpret it, it speaks to the Israelites' complete trust in their God, a belief that transcends what we normally think is possible.
That's a good point. So as we move through the book of Joshua, we see this pattern, right? Conquest, then settlement, then new challenges popping up.
Yeah, it's like a cycle. Every victory, every step forward, it's followed by new tests. It refines their faith.
Right. The Gibeonite deception is a perfect example of that.
Exactly. They were tricked, but they still stuck to their treaty. They showed real commitment to their values, even when it was hard.
It would have been understandable to break their oath given the situation, but they chose integrity instead.
It shows a lot about their character, True strength doesn't come from power, but from sticking to what's right.
Really makes you think.
Yeah. And, it raises questions about balancing wisdom and mercy.
All right, they were deceived, but they also showed compassion by honoring their commitment.
It's a complex situation. It speaks to the challenges of leadership and making tough decisions.
Definitely. The book of Joshua doesn't shy away from showing us how complicated human nature is.
Oh, absolutely. The Israelites aren't perfect heroes. They make mistakes. They have doubts. But God still loves them and stays faithful to his promises.
And that's what keeps them going, right? God's unwavering faithfulness.
Absolutely. That's what sustains them throughout all their struggles.
So towards the end of the book, we see Joshua getting older, nearing the end of his life.
Right. And he feels his time is coming to a close. So he brings all the tribes of Israel together at Shechem. It's a huge gathering.
Yeah, sounds like a pivotal moment.
Oh, it is. It's not just a goodbye. It's his chance to pass on all his wisdom, make sure their journey continues in the right way.
So what happens at this gathering?
Well, Joshua gives this incredible speech, his farewell address. He talks about their history, reminds them of all the amazing things they've seen, the covenant that connects them to God. And, he emphasizes how vital it is to stay faithful.
It's like his last chance to really drive home the important lessons.
Exactly. He speaks with so much passion, so much urgency. He knows settling in a new land will bring temptations. He knows the allure of foreign gods, the ways of the surrounding people. It'll be a constant pull.
So he's warning them, preparing them for what's ahead.
Exactly. He's saying, remember what you've been through. Remember how God delivered you at the Jordan River, at Jericho. Remember all the ways he's shown you his power and faithfulness. He's pleading with them to choose God above everything else.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. And this farewell address, it's not just about the past. It's a call to renew their commitment.
So how do the Israelites respond to all this?
Well, they make this incredible declaration. They say, the Lord our God will we serve, and his voice will we obey.
Wow, that's a strong statement of faith.
It is. It's a turning point, They're reaffirming who they are, God's chosen people, and they're pledging to keep following him.
It's like they're saying, we're in this for the long haul.
Exactly. And to make that commitment solid, to make it real, Joshua sets up a permanent reminder. He places a large stone under an oak tree.
Oh, wow. Like a physical symbol of their promise.
Yeah, exactly. A monument to their covenant with God. It represents their shared history, their unwavering faith, and the future they're building together.
It's a powerful image.
And it's a message for the generations to come. Remember where you came from. Stay true to the God who brought you through so much.
A reminder to honor their heritage and their faith. So as we wrap up this part of our dive into Joshua, I'm really struck by how much this book is about transitions. Transitioning from the wilderness to the promised land, transitioning from Moses' leadership to Joshua's, and then this final transition as Joshua prepares the Israelites for a future without him.
That's a great point. It's all about change and growth and finding ways to stay faithful through it all. And, even though Joshua is nearing the end of his life, his work isn't finished. His legacy will live on through the people he led.
Right. The story doesn't end with him.
Yeah, there's so much more to come. It's amazing how, the book of Joshua puts these impossible situations out there and then, bam, shows how God works through people.
Right. Like we're not alone in our struggles, even when things seem overwhelming. There's strength and guidance out there.
And even Joshua, he's supposed to be this strong, brave leader. Even he has moments of doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Like his faith is tested. He needs God's promises to keep him going.
Definitely. There's that part where he's facing 5 Amorite kings all at once. Talk about impossible odds.
Right. But God tells him straight up, don't be afraid. I've got this. I've handed them to you. Not a single one of them will stand against you.
Wow. Talk about a pep talk.
Right. And it works. Joshua finds his courage again, and they win a huge victory.
That victory at Gibeon, that leads into that incredible event we talked about earlier, the sun standing still.
Oh, yeah. That one. Still blowing people's minds all these centuries later.
It's not over with Joshua's death. The story keeps going with those who come after him, carrying on his legacy, trying to live out that covenant.
Right. The book of Joshua, it's not just some dusty old history book. It's like a guide for dealing with life's ups and downs, timeless wisdom, stuff that still applies to us today.
Absolutely. We see it all in there, right? Leadership, courage, obedience, making tough decisions, and that power of faith that just keeps going.
Yeah, themes that we all grapple with, like we face our own Jerichos, our own Gibeonite situations, right?
Those moments where we have to trust in something bigger than ourselves, gotta stick to our beliefs, even when it's hard.
Exactly. The book, it encourages us to, embrace the journey, even with all the uncertainty, all the messiness.
To remember that, hey, we're not alone in this.
Even when we screw up, even when things are tough, God's grace and faithfulness are still there.
So I think if there's one big thing we can take away from this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's have faith. It's not passive, it's active.
You got to put in the effort. You got to step out, face your fears, and just keep going, even when you can't see the whole path.
And the book of Joshua shows us that real strength, it's not about what we can do on our own. It's about letting go, letting God guide us, letting his power work through us.
Well said. So as we wrap up our exploration of Joshua, I'm feeling, honestly, kind of in awe. It's inspiring.
Me too. The story of Joshua and the Israelites, it shows us what faith can do, how powerful it is, and how God's promises, they last.
It's a story that pushes us, to live with courage, to be honest, and to believe that a better future is possible.
I like that. So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the book of Joshua.
It's been great exploring this with you.
We hope you've discovered something new, maybe found some fresh hope and a sense of purpose for your own life. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Help others find this richness and wisdom too.
Until next time, keep exploring. Happy reading.